Hello, and welcome to Friendship, Wellness, and Wisdom with your hosts, Heather and Rachel.
Together, we're here to talk about all things self-care, from fitness to mindfulness and everything in between.
Whether it's yoga, Tai Chi, Pilates, or practices like tapping and meditation, we're here to help you discover new ways to care for yourself.
We'll also share tips on positive self-talk, finding time for self-care, and creating routines that stick.
We're here to provide you with plenty of tips, tricks, and unsolicited life advice.
Remember to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications. Join our community, and together we can explore the path to wellness. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Friendship, Wellness, and Wisdom. On today's episode, we are going to be dissecting a blog here that Heather wrote about wellness was never meant to be a luxury. And I feel like this is something a lot of us can really relate to, like simple wellness, simple self-care, like daily habits. Not even, we're not talking luxuries here. We're talking like everyday self-care necessities that for some of us just don't seem to be able, we can't make it happen. So we're going to get started. And, the main question is, what was it that inspired you?
It really came from my own experience of feeling excluded from traditional wellness practices, right? Traditional wellness spaces. And I often felt guilty for resting. I often felt anxious about resting.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that.
And so it took me a long time to realize that wellness practices, as they're commonly presented, weren't always built for everybody in mind. And so, so I figured, if I'm going through it, somebody else has to, be there, trying to figure it out. And and I think I've come to, a really good crossroads, a really good place with it. So I thought it was a good time to address it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think too, with anything like this, like any kind of wellness, it's things that you need to look at where you are, in that moment, because even if you had practices or things that you did before, things need to adjust and kind of meet you where you are in that moment. And I think that's something we all kind of need to look at. Like, we put things together, we find a way to make things work, but then several things change. And then we're not changing any of those practices to fit what our needs are now.
Right.
And so it's just an ongoing process. So once you kind of figure out, what it is you need to do, it's important to, I think, and we'll get into that too, to assess and reassess as time goes on to make sure that, you're able to fully take care of yourself and meet your own needs.
Yeah, totally.
You use a phrase like discrimination by design. And that really kind of struck a nerve. So, yeah. So just why don't you explain a little bit about that?
So I'm sorry that struck a nerve.
I just know, I get it. It just kind of was like, wow, so it's, I don't know if that was like the right phrase, but it just kind of, you're like, wow, you know what? This really isn't, like, no one had me in mind.
Right.
When they came up with this, and I'm like, how do, I just feel like I can't make this work. So
yeah. Discrimination by design refers to systems like healthcare, education, housing, safety, the safety that we're, entitled, or that we should be entitled to, or I'm missing the word. But anyway, the things that we shouldn't have to take for granted, but we shouldn't have to do without.
Yeah, so I mean, they're like there are things that are necessities that should be there and available to anyone who needs them. But even if they are there, or when they are there, they're oftentimes like put so far out of reach, or you have to work so hard to get to them that it's not really available.
Right. And, this includes things like redlining housing. Right. This includes equality at schools, accessibility to everyday healthcare. We just talked about that off screen, right?
Absolutely.
This is like voter suppression, like not being able to get to where you need to be to vote or get the proper things that you need to be able to vote. Um, it's all encompassing, and it really, the reason why you saying it hit a nerve is because right now, discrimination by design does hit a nerve, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, and it's so prominent right now that people are, waking up to a lot of things that are happening. Maybe we didn't really, maybe we didn't really think they affected us, but they do.
Right. Yeah, no, and it's the realization of that I think starts
Yeah,
to kind of, hit hard when you're like, wow, I didn't notice this before, but now like I really see how
right.
all these things are.
And and to think about the people, I've considered myself very blessed because when I wrote this and dissecting through this, I have to realize that this has been very prominent for a lot of people that don't look like me.
Yeah.
And so I have to definitely look at it and think, even though I'm aware of it now and as I was going through it, aware of what was going on, or not necessarily aware of going on, I came to that
Right.
realization, right? But the whole thing was there are people that are going through this every day that are still going through it that will continue to go through it.
Yeah.
And it's something that we need to recognize, right? It needs to be recognized, it needs to be talked about, and it needs to be health needs to be accessible. Like daily care needs to be accessible. Like these things should be accessible to everyone. Um, and so yeah, so it's very important to me that that we're doing this episode, but that I was able to write the blog.
We're talking about like wellness, and it's as much as a part of your environment, like where
Right.
you are, as much as like, your own personal habits and like the
Right.
things that you do, right?
Yeah, exactly. We often tell people just to meditate, just to journal. And, I'm great for that, doing coaching and teaching yoga philosophies and everything. I'm like, okay, do you journal? Do you meditate? And things like that. But your environment is, if your environment is actively harmful, right, or
Hmm.
stressful, those techniques alone are not enough, right?
No, absolutely.
You can find some peace in that, but if you're struggling where your next meal is coming from, right?
Yeah,
Just sitting,
meditation is not
yeah,
going to be top of
sitting,
mind.
sitting down is not feeding the belly. Sitting down and meditating is not feeding the belly. And so, wellness includes your community, your safety, your accessibility to basic needs like
Hmm.
healthcare, rest, food, and so those are all things that a lot of people just take for granted because they have it.
Of
But there are
course.
many people that don't have it. The other end of that is sometimes when you always have it, then when you now don't have it, it's very overwhelming,
Of
right?
course.
Because you're used to now one side of here, and now you're trying to navigate and figure it out. And like I said, you and I just talked about this offline, but it really is like how do you navigate through these things? And meditation, journaling, and all that stuff is great. They're a great piece of it all, but they don't solve it,
Right.
right? And so,
No, I mean, there are tools to, if you can and can use them and know how to use them, that can help
yes.
maybe bring some clarity and some presence of mind so
Hmm.
that you can figure out what your next move is
Yeah.
and how to proceed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We talk about all these things being complementary, right? You and I have
Yes.
done episode after episode, and everything that we talk about is complementary. This is no different. Like to tell somebody to meditate or journal, like it's all complementary to the issues that you're going through on a daily basis.
Of course. And I think it's like the same, we'll go back to like very, very basics, like those same practices that, most of us do. You get up in the morning and, hopefully you're having breakfast, like you have some water, you go to the bathroom, take a shower, brush your teeth,
Yeah.
put on clean clothes.
Right.
Those, a lot, it's like that. So we're like, these are the things that we do, like the habits that we create, the routines that we build upon, just maybe, above and beyond our own like simple self-care to
Right.
manage, right? Or
Right.
managing and maintaining our wellness. And then of course, if something's wrong, then you go to the doctor, or,
Right.
you're not doing well, you see your therapist or psychologist or psychiatrist.
Mm-hmm.
And, when these issues become too much to handle, then yes, you need to seek professional help if needed. But, these are the things that you can do to maintain. Like you go to the dentist, once or twice a year, but every day you brush your teeth,
Right.
you floss your teeth, like,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
those kind of
Totally.
complementary practices, right? So it's all about like being able to care for
Yeah.
your own
And
needs.
it's to have the accessibility to be able to do
Yeah.
these things.
You had mentioned in the blog like energy healing as a quiet resistance.
So energy healing is revolutionary because it helps us reconnect with ourselves, right? Especially when it's done with awareness of the structures around us. Practicing tapping and breath work or chakra work can gently challenge those external systems, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it can also help us reclaim our space and where we're at and what's going on around us. Each act of healing becomes a statement of belonging. Each thing that
Yeah.
we do to self care, each thing that we do that keeps us going, like you said, you brush your teeth every day to maintain, right? And then you
Mm-hmm.
go to the dentist. Each thing that we do is something that we are resisting against all the elements that are going on around us that are really
Mm-hmm.
hard to navigate. We can really only hone in on how we perceive or how we can move forward and perceive
Mm-hmm.
everything, right? And so the energy work piece of it helps us shift all that stuff that we're trying to navigate through. It helps us kind of
Yeah. I
like
think
tap in to what's going on around us. And I think it helps me connect to things genuinely,
mm-hmm.
right? When I do my energy work, it helps me connect to things generally because I feel like we have so much coming at us all the time. Not just what's going on in the world, but just what goes on in our daily life, that
Mm-hmm.
it is really hard to digest everything. And if we really work on our energy and how we allow things to absorb in our bodies and in our mind, it shifts the perspective of what's really happening.
Absolutely. I think too, just to kind of add to the practices themselves, sometimes it's not even, when you mention like a handful of different things that we can do, sometimes it's literally, it doesn't matter so much what we do,
Mhm.
but the fact that we notice that we need time and we honor that and
Yeah.
give it to ourselves. So, however, you are taking that time, even if it's just a moment, I feel like to close your eyes, to breathe, and allow yourself to process what's going on
Yeah,
during
totally.
the day, that's the same kind of like self-care energy work. It's really, I think, the act of saying, hey, I need this, I
Mhm.
deserve this, I am doing this for myself. And that in itself can be just as healing as any technique or process that that you may go through. So
Right.
if you don't have, accessibility to learn how to do all these things, sometimes just giving yourself that quiet moment to like close your eyes and just focus in
Hmm.
and let all the distractions go, like that can be just as powerful.
Yeah. And, I always look at, practicing non-attachment as
Yeah.
a great way to navigate through just life. I mean, there are so many things that we attach ourselves to,
Oh, of course. Yeah.
that we really don't need to. And, you know, the big picture here is that we're not all taught those skills and they're not easily accessible to everyone. And that's the key, right? It's not just about journaling and meditating and tapping and Reiki and all the things that we talked about. It is
Right.
about the bigger picture. It is about feeling safe and secure in your community and
Yeah.
making sure that you have food and your family is safe and secure and everything. And so it all spirals into how do you navigate in everyday life to make sure that you're well
Right.
to be able to care for others and make sure others are well to be able to care for you.
Yeah, no, that's definitely something most of us aren't really taught that, right? We get a whole like, well, you go to school and you learn all these things so that you can go
Mm,
to the next school, so you can go
right.
out and get a job, so you can get a house and put food on the table and pay your bills. And I think for a lot of people beyond that, we're not really taught so well, like how to take care of ourselves. Yes, there's those regular maintenance things, and
Mhm.
you learn how to brush your teeth but I mean, things like emotional regulation and knowing when you're stressed out, burnt out, have gone too far, this is not something that we're taught how to do.
Right.
Like
Absolutely.
I mean, it might be a little bit more different now. I mean, but when we were kids, you sucked it up and you
Hmm.
did what you needed to do, regardless of how you were feeling, what was going on. Like,
Right.
oh, you don't have a fever, so you're going to school. Like,
Hmm.
even though maybe something else was wrong, but that was the line. Well, no fever? Okay, well, then you don't stay home.
Yeah.
And it's, recognizing like sometimes we need that break and, how to know when recognize when it is that we need something that is outside of that little box that we said, our needs are, or, what we should or shouldn't have, or, do or don't need to do.
Yeah.
And it would be really wonderful. I think there's so much more of an awareness to it.
Hmm.
But
Absolutely.
some of these things, like some of these things I always felt like should be like kind of taught, like they should be in your regular standard. Like, okay, we get gym class at school, but great, it might actually be a really good time to have those things where, I don't even know where you do this, right? At home, at school, whatever, like learning how to notice what your emotions are
Hmm.
and how to deal with them. Because
Right.
unless your parents are really great at that, that is not something any of us are really getting.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
some of us are lucky and just kind of know like how to do that and to find the right people to talk to, and some of us are not very good at that. And we're like, 35 before they realize that, they had to start figuring this stuff out, and 50 before
Yeah. And
before we
and
really even had a clue as to what that was.
and think of it in this manner. It's all work, right? And
Yeah, absolutely.
if you're already beat down, right? And you're already exhausted and you can't find the right avenues to take and you don't have the accessibility to do these things or to have the ability to learn these things, then what?
Yeah.
You know, I I think that's the key, right? I think the key is like we we don't have this just handed over. Like none of this is just easy information. None
Right.
of this is just given to you. And some of it is so hard to find. And sometimes when you find the information, it's so overwhelming because you're just
Right. You
like,
don't know where to start. You don't know where to start. Like, you don't know how to
yes.
pick it apart to like, because you want to bare bones a lot of this stuff
Hmm.
in the beginning because,
And how do
you
you
know,
digest, right?
right.
How do you take it all in and then um make it pliable, like make it
Right.
usable, make it yeah, accessible.
You, yeah, exactly. Well, you want those, I mean, you want those like simple instructions to kind of get yourself
Hmm.
started and then, grow and expand from there. But it's not always the easiest thing to do. You're right. It's not always the easiest thing to find.
Right.
So, well, like that'll kind of bring us to community, right? So that's
Right.
kind of central to your whole perspective on wellness.
Yeah.
So, where, like, let's start, like, how do we find these communities? Where are these communities? Like, how do you get, where do you find your space?
Yeah.
Find your
So
people.
yeah, that's it, right? where do you find them? And if you can't find them, can you build them?
Right.
Right. And so healing is profoundly amplified by community, right? Because true healing thrives when it's witnessed, right? When it's applied, when it's witnessed. And then there's power in us saying, like, I see you. And there's power in somebody saying, I can help you. And,
Yeah. Well, even
things
just
like
in
that.
this, like in these conversations, in these podcasts, in our just talking about back and forth about our own experiences and
Right.
doing this, there's, that's an outlet for that. And, we're discovering new things as we have these conversations,
Right.
as we, go through all of this.
And you and I see things so differently, right?
Yeah, which is funny because we talk about a lot of the same stuff and we come at it from completely
yeah,
different, like completely different angles, completely different places and
which is
viewpoints.
great because you don't want to just sit in a vacuum, right? You just don't
Well,
want to,
no.
you
And that's
want
why
other
doing this,
perspectives.
like this is like, it's a smaller community, but this is our community and we can, you're like, wow, you see that like that. Like I was looking at it like, this very like narrowly, and you look at, and what you told me just kind of brought it out, to here
Yeah.
and vice versa, right? And it just kind of opens new things up, new ways of looking at things, like
Mm-hmm.
it gives you maybe new avenues to go down to,
Yeah.
find the things that you weren't finding before. Like it opens up doors sometimes to like, things that you never thought that you could do or have or be, like
Right.
just by having that conversation.
Right. And, like the reason why I'm so big on community is because isolation can sometimes intensify struggle, right?
Absolutely. Like I think
And
always, right?
yeah,
If you keep things like that's where kind of shame comes in. When you keep
right.
things secret and quiet and
Mhm.
you don't let them out, that's where like, that comes from.
Right. And so, community can transform that, right? It can transform into now a shared strength. And community is so important. That's why I started the community that I started. And I'm still trying me myself because I don't have a lot of accessibility in the place that I live. I don't live
Right.
in a place like I just told you we had to drive an hour
Right.
to get a 15-minute x-ray to drive home for an hour. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
I
Yeah.
I don't I don't have the accessibility to a lot of things. And I don't live close to a lot of things. And so it really is important, for the community. And so I could not find community here. So I started community. So I started,
Absolutely. Make sure you put all that info like in the
yeah,
notes, like your Discord, all of that, because I mean, if you are looking to join a community, there's one here.
yeah,
So please check it out. Also, and I'm just gonna like, if you don't know where to look, honestly, you can go onto social media. You can look, there's communities on Facebook, there's
mhm,
communities on TikTok, there is communities on Instagram.
yes,
They're everywhere. And you can look through, like read through, see what you like, what you don't. Join something, try it out. Like if it's not a fit for you,
yeah,
you can try something else. And I
right,
think that's too is like just being it's there. A lot of it is very accessible and you
mhm,
can kind of play with it and see what's,
right,
right for you.
yeah. And our community right now is new, but friendship, wellness, and friendship, wellness, and wisdom.
There you go. That's our show. Friendship, wellness, and wisdom.
Jiminy Christmas. Is also a community, right? And
Absolutely.
so joining us and joining in our discussions and putting stuff in under the YouTube discussion comments and everything like that is a good way to start, right?
Absolutely.
Um, I think the big thing about community, and we talked about this in one of our last episodes when we were talking about community, not everybody knows what they're looking for in community. And so it is good to dabble in a couple of different communities to see what resonates with you because then it
Absolutely.
kind of helps you decide, yes, this is what I want in my community. This is helpful, or this community is really not
Yeah,
for me. It
absolutely.
doesn't really, it doesn't really serve me right now.
I've done that like more than a few times, or like, stayed with something and then all of a sudden like it just, doesn't resonate anymore,
Hmm.
or it's like just wasn't, they're meeting my needs, or
Right.
there were a few things that I kind of wanted. It was just something really basic. I was looking for like quotes, right? Like
Hmm.
uplifting like quotes like for every day.
Yeah.
And I actually stopped following one because they were saying they were like, positive, uplifting quotes, but it was always about like, oh, if someone's treating you like this, and I'm like,
Who
no, that's
know?
not uplifting. That's just like that's kind of shaming it. And you're judging someone for the way
Yeah.
that they treated you.
Right.
That is not rising above it. That's like kind of,
Yeah.
so I was like, okay, well, you know what? I'm going to get rid of this one. And,
Right.
you move on to the next thing. And there's like plenty of groups. Like for a while, I was in like a migraine group, and I was
Hmm.
in a fibromyalgia group. And I've kind of come past those. And there's, other groups that like I'm on I talk about all the time, like the tapping
Yeah.
solution. I
Totally.
have their app, and I'm like in their Facebook community, and I get their newsletter
Right.
and all of that stuff. And it's been really helpful for me. And, I'm not talking directly to anyone, but you can put your things in there, you can ask
Hmm.
your questions and
Yeah.
have things answered. And I really like that's something that's been a really great resource for me. And it's super simple. I'm like, I have the app. I joined the Facebook group. Like I said, I get a newsletter, like I
Hmm.
have the updates or anything new that's coming on. And, it's not me interacting with a whole bunch of people, but if I have questions, I can get them answered. And it's a
Right.
really simple way to like learn a little bit more about what
Yeah.
I'm doing, and, how to continue practicing, or what, what's new and
Right.
out there.
Yeah, totally. I and I love that. I love the thought process of things being um accessible and people exploring them with curiosity.
And I think that's the thing too. Yeah. It's not like you don't go out exploring like for fear of, or, you explore with curiosity to learn more,
Right.
to expand
Right.
and to grow. And I think that's really one of the most important things as
Totally.
far as that's concerned.
Yeah.
All right. So, for anybody who's listening who might feel like completely overwhelmed, wellness practices can seem like a lot. It was for me when I started. And there wasn't all this when I needed to start doing this.
Hmm.
And I had to just I started like reading a lot and kind of coming up with my own ideas and inventing ways. So
Right.
what are some key takeaways for anyone who might find this very overwhelming?
Yeah. And before I say what the key takeaway is, know that even if you find stuff that resonates with you, if your life is not settled, it
Hmm.
could still be overwhelming, right?
Absolutely.
And know that it's okay, right? So my main message is wellness isn't a luxury. It's everybody's birthright,
Yeah.
and you don't have to perform wellness or um, you don't have to feel like you're worthy to before you start a wellness practice. You don't have to feel like, oh, I don't deserve this, and I'll do it when I deserve it. You deserve it. It's a birthright, and it's okay to move slow, to rest without guilt. It's okay to heal in very gentle ways. Uh, it's okay to find things that just resonate with you. Um,
Absolutely.
real real wellness respects the whole you, respects everything about you. I just said this in my restorative class last night. You are exactly where you are supposed to be at the
At
time you
this,
are
yeah,
supposed to be there.
be there. Yep.
And so, you may struggle, but see what you can pull out of that struggle. Um, you might find discomfort, but see what you can pull out of that discomfort. And know that everything that you are doing, you are working towards something, right? And it's important to know that you're seen, you're valid, um, you're worthy, period. Like, whatever you're doing, you are worthy of all this. And it is not, don't think that you're never worthy of being healthy, being well, being looked after, being
Yeah, right. It's
cared.
not just something that's for other people.
No.
I think a lot of us, even the people that we look at that we feel are deserving, they're going through a lot of the same things that we are, feeling those same feelings, wondering if, they should be doing this right now. You know what? If you're going to take the time and you're going to do it, then, well, guess what? You should be doing it. It's what you're doing. So,
Yeah.
Own it, be there.
Yeah.
Be
And it doesn't have to
involved.
be this perfect, glorious,
No,
whatever.
no. Literally, sometimes I just sit quietly in the morning in the dark by myself with a hot cup of coffee and enjoy the quiet.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, I sit there with my eyes closed and I'm just like, it's peaceful, it's quiet.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like that, that's how I start my day. Like that's and being quiet and that's it. Like that's a practice in and of itself. Like I can
taking a
taste
moment.
my coffee. Like I can hear the birds outside. I can feel my couch underneath my butt,
Yeah. Yeah. Recognize. Yeah. So, I mean, that's it. Like, just be aware that, we're all going through it, and it's okay. And, we should be empathetic to each other or a lot of people believe that wellness is a luxury, and it's not.
No, it's definitely,
not.
it's for everyone. We all deserve it. It's might be a little bit harder to get to for some of us than others. But, you deserve to have your needs met. And if you can find a way to do that for yourself, that's definitely something that is worth doing.
Yeah. And I think it's important for us to strive towards that and support each person in that journey. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
no, I think we've kind of said it all. And if, out there, you're having trouble with this, you're looking for a community, get in touch with us. We're here.
Absolutely.
We're happy to chat. We want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah. So let's all practice being a bit softer and kinder to ourselves in each and every day.
All right.
All right. So, bye.
Thanks for listening to Friendship, Wellness, and Wisdom. Don't forget to subscribe or follow us wherever you get your podcasts. And follow us on social media for more updates. See you next time.